Speaking moistly, keep 2 meters apart. Keeping moistly.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our usual Tuesday afternoon. Very quick flash edition of Speaking Moistly. I don't have too much time, and Greg, I was going to say Jeremy doesn't have too much time. You're not Jeremy at all. Where's
No,
Jeremy? What have you done with
I'm
him?
not Jeremy, but we're talking about Jeremy
We
today.
are
Shout
talking
outs to
about
Jeremy
Jeremy.
McKenzie and
What up?
Diagolon.
And Viva Fry playing the wow, you did really angle. No.
Well, I don't know. They're live right now, but Viva Fry is a lawyer. He's very diplomatic with what he talks about.
Fair
and
enough. No shooting from the hip.
Yeah, well, I don't know. But yeah, it's good to see this story in the news. The story being that they're trying to, like, the story started in the mainstream anyway with Jeremy McKenzie getting a photo shaking Pierre Poilievre's hand.
Yep.
And by the way, when he was there, he told Pierre Poilievre, he's like, "Are you going to like defund the media when you're in charge? Like, get rid of all this, like, this slush fund for the media." And I'm pretty sure he said yes, if I'm not mistaken. So
I heard that too.
Let's hold Pierre to the fire. That's the case. But yeah, so they took that photo. The mainstream media took that photo and they said, "Oh, Pierre is shaking hands with a terrorist." And so it's like, now Diagolon was tweeted about by, long story short, Jagmeet Singh was tweeting about it and how Jeremy McKenzie is a terrorist. So now it needs to come to light just how ridiculous this country is.
We're still on the way up. You don't get it yet. This is not even part of the drop. This isn't even part of a loop or anything like that. We're still going clink, 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 clink on this roller coaster. And we're looking around going, it's getting pretty high, don't you think?
This is pretty silly, though.
This is get bad.
Diagolon even has like a goat figurine that's addicted to narcotics.
That's it.
Like, it's pretty goofy. It's pretty silly. Like, it's hard to.
Did you call it Hoofy?
No, the G.
Goofy. Oh, Goofy. Oh, I thought you said Hoofy as a goat play. Okay.
And yeah, it's just like, misinformation, disinformation. Look out for it. By the way,
Rachel, Global News TikTok edition. I came across this story earlier today, just before we started, actually. And she said, Diagolon, what you don't know. And I thought to myself,
no way.
I don't think there's anything that you know that I don't know, Rachel. Global News TikTok edition, especially about Diagolon. Who's your source? Do tell.
Right. And well, it's interesting because when it comes to their side being the Canadian establishment who desperately wants to vilify somebody to justify the use of the Emergency Act during the trucker convoy. That's what they're trying to do, right? They're trying to justify the use of the Emergency Act. They're trying to scaremonger about domestic terrorists. So what they're relying on is basically in a lot of invented, taken out of context things that Jeremy has said, and like trying to like make it as sound inflammatory and as scary and spooky as possible. In reality, they're conservatives who are pissed off at the government, and yeah, some of them are gun owners or they're veterans. So there's a lot of locker room talk. There's a lot of aggressive, masculine testosterone being pumped around. And that's really all they're guilty of is like being men who are pissed off at this totally weak, horrible administration that runs our country. And they own guns, by the way. Oh my God, they're gun owners. And it's like, that's supposed to be, therefore militia, therefore terrorists.
Well, producing enough food is terrorism to this government. So let's put things into perspective here. Right.
That's a good point.
One thing I wanted to mention as well, we keep joking around like Pierre Poilievre's going to win. I hate to be the guy to tell you this, man, but they're going to Joe Biden the CPC.
You think so?
Oh, Chare's going to win it. Are you kidding me? Off and away. Unless he gets thrown into the back of a van like a side of beef. Maybe not. Who knows? I think it. Well, you watched the 2020 election, right?
I mean, how can you not watch that?
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that it doesn't matter how much Poilievre looks like he's got this thing in the bag. Did you also watch the election that brought Andrew Scheer to power?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's going to happen. You know why?
No?
Because the CPC, I think they have, I mean, as amazing as Pierre Poilievre is doing right now in terms of like, he's doing all the right things, saying all the right things, campaigning all the right ways. And he's like, he's he's grabbing the populist movement in Canada successfully.
Sure.
As great as he's doing, I don't think he's our guy. I think unfortunately
Sure.
he might be a WEF guy. I think he's compromised, unfortunately. I think his trajectory is very similar to Trudeau when he first rose to power and became prime minister. But if he wasn't the establishment guy, and then they like rig this CPC election to give it to Jean Charest, I don't think the establishment would do that, because they should know that everyone will become a PPC supporter after that.
I think that the CPC would lose less than 5 MPs. One of them would be Pierre Poilievre. One of them would be probably Candice Bergen, and any other supporters, any other big supporters. I think fundamentally, yeah, I don't think that if they give it to Charest, even if Charest Kim Campbell's a second Conservative Party, that's people going to the PPC. I don't see it, because it's been so poisoned. And not that I don't want that to happen. I'd love for that to happen. Sure, that's great. I was joking about it in my show, talking about how if Jean Charest wins, then the PPC wins the fallout, basically. But I don't think there's going to be the fallout that you and I would expect. I think we'd be shit shocked about how many MPs sit back and say, you know, I've known Jean Charest as a Conservative for a long, long time, right after he finished being the Liberal Premier of Quebec.
No,
right?
you're
you think
wrong.
I'm way wrong?
You're totally wrong.
Sure.
You're totally wrong, because all of the frustration, all of the leftover frustration and vitriol and anger and like all these emotions that have come from.
You mean?
Let me finish. Yeah. All that. All of the sort of unresolved anger and frustration that came from the horrible conclusion of the trucker convoy. All of that has poured, not all of it, but a lot of it has poured into this hope in Pierre Poilievre saving the day and him being the guy and blah, 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 blah. So if he gets snubbed by the establishment because he's like, you know, doesn't play the globalist baseball, then I actually kind of low key, I hope that happens, because that's going to radicalize conservatives a lot more. And that's actually going to be, that would be a huge opportunity to push people
play the
further
game out.
Right.
If you're like, if what I'm saying happens and Joe Biden, the CPC, and they insert Charest and a whole big faction of conservative MPs, and I don't think this would happen, but let's say, I think probably what happens is I think less than 5, but let's say 5 to 10 for argument's sake, leave the party and they start their own party, and it's a Pierre Poilievre party, whatever, or whatever they do. Let's say they join the PPC. Fundamentally, I don't think we will see the big shakedown that happened after the Reform Party, after the PCs were destroyed by Kim Campbell and Charest in 1993. I don't think we see that fallout. I don't think we see the reorganizing. And the reorganizing of the Conservative Party took from 1993 to 2006 when Harper won. If they walk Charest in, they destroy the CPC for 15 years, right? Like, are they going to coalesce around the PPC? Are they going to coalesce?
I think you're underestimating how quickly political movements build and gain momentum. I
could be way wrong, but it seems to
me because like, dude, think about the environment though. You're comparing it to 1993.
Sure.
You know, information moved at a glacial pace back then compared to now.
Yeah, but we bankrupted the country in 95. Right, things were very economically dicey back then. But what I'm saying is,
but was there a horrendous political climate where people wouldn't even like go to dinner or be friends with one another because of their political views? Things have become so much more radical and polarized now, and this idea that.
If Charest walks in,
if Pierre gets snubbed and it's clearly a rigged election,
what do you think?
I don't know what would happen next, but people would not just sit on their couch and do nothing. In fact, the only reason people are sitting on their couch is because they think Pierre is going to save the day.
You're not wrong. And I've been talking and I've been saying that if the government has an opportunity, if people get violent, if something happens like the convoy, the imagined fake convoy that happened in the media and not the actual convoy, if that violent thing actually happens, then the government uses that as an excuse to crack down on dissidents. They say, see, we told you all along these right-wing terrorists were plotting something, and all it took was one election and they lost their minds. And I'm not saying that I want this to happen. I'm not saying that Mr. Poilievre doesn't deserve to win, because I truly believe that he's run the best campaign. And I think that he seems legitimate from the things that he says, whatever. I think that he believes that if he's the leader of the party, that he can fix it. So regardless of whether that's true or not, but I think he believes that he can. Okay. So I think he's legitimate. Yeah, I know you think he's a WEF guy. I don't know. I can't explain Baird. So you might be right. But to me, Baird aside, from the things he says, he seems legitimate. So if Poilievre is snubbed, I think that's a bomb into the Conservative Party that throws it into disarray for years, if not totally decimates it until another party can come up.
And just to be devil's advocate, what would be wrong with that?
What would be wrong with that? Just the time that it takes to reorganize some semblance of a resistance. But at this point in time, there isn't really much of a resistance anywhere anyway.
Yeah, but it's like, dude, like
I'm just looking at the amount of time it took to build the Conservative Party of Canada from when Kim Campbell and Charest destroyed the PC and the Reform Party in 93 to when they made government in 2006, 7, end of 2006. So it's one of those things where, does Canada have 15 years to be governed by the NDP and the Liberals while the Conservative Party figures out how to articulate a half decent argument? And the answer that I think is probably not. But what's the best thing to happen? Holy smoke. Is there any saving this system? I don't think so. I think the whole system is probably.
Sorry to cut you off, but do you think the creation of the PPC was a good thing or a bad thing?
I think at the time it was a good thing. And I think that fundamentally having an alternative voice is a good thing, but there's some issues that I would have with the ability for the elected or for the electorate to have an input into the party. I would have some concerns about the.
Okay, no. But I'm not asking about your opinion of like, what do you think about every aspect of the PPC? I'm saying the creation of the PPC. You think it's a good thing or a bad thing?
If it's what I think it is, if it's a legitimate party, which I believe that it is.
Okay, let's change the example.
Then yes, I believe that it. Right.
When it comes to trying to move the needle in Canada, when it comes to trying to fight for the things that you believe in, there's a room full of people. Some of them are PPC supporters, some of them are Conservative supporters, some of them are Liberals, NDP. Out of all the people in that room, who are you going to probably identify with the most in terms of what you believe in and what you want for the country? A Conservative supporter or a PPC supporter?
Probably a PPC supporter. Yeah.
And I'm using PPC as an example of like what their politics are. Yeah. Let's say you're right, and then they snub Pierre, they give it to the swamp creature, slimy greaseball. If you look at him, he's literally greasy.
He looks like Palpatine.
Charest. Yeah, he looks like Palpatine actually.
He does.
So if they give it to Charest, that room filled with people, there's going to be significantly more PPC people in that room because of that, because they snubbed Pierre. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
So the amount of people who agree with you has gotten larger. I think you're right in terms of the infrastructure.
That doesn't translate to electoral wins. That's the problem.
Not right away.
In Canada, I'm suspect. Do you remember the 2020 election? Not to go back to this and beat this drum too much. Do you remember the 2020 election? Do you remember the election that got Bernier not leadership of the party? Do you remember the election that brought Andrew Scheer to power? Do you remember the election that brought O'Toole to power? I'm just saying there seems to be a pattern here. And it doesn't matter how many people we think agree with us.
Who liked Andrew Scheer?
Nobody.
Yeah, people like Pierre. People love Pierre.
Doesn't matter.
Well, it makes a big difference. Why does it not matter? Of course it matters.
Donald Trump had crowds of people
because people loved
chanting,
him.
"We love you." They chanted. I've never seen that. People didn't say "We love you." Bill Clinton had very specific people love him in very specific ways, right? But he didn't have crowds chanting.
But this is a point for me. Like, yeah, like no one's saying they love Jean Charest. No one's saying that they love Andrew Scheer.
He lost.
No one was saying that they loved friggin' fat lesbian or what was his name?
I'm saying that's an overwhelming response from a crowd. Aaron O'Toole, you fat lesbian. That's an overwhelming response from a crowd. And I'm saying that I watched an election put together that was masterful by Donald Trump. And I love politics. I thought Barack Obama's 2008 and 2012 runs were pretty good. 2008 was better than 2012. And Donald Trump's 2020 run was even better than that. And not because I like Trump or anything to that effect. It was just that much better. And it didn't matter. He lost. And it didn't matter. Biden's in the White House still. And so what does that mean for the Conservative Party? Because we got to live in reality, not in the world that we want to live into. And what I think is, if the establishment drops a bomb like Charest into the Conservative Party in the climate that is happening now, they use the fallout as an excuse to label innocent people as terrorists and to further their radical agenda. And I don't want to sound crazy or anything, but we've seen it before with, who are we talking about at the beginning again? Jeremy McKenzie, right? And so I don't think I'm too far off. I don't think I'm too crazy. The only bit about that sounds crazy is the elevator pitch part. When you understand the full context, you go, oh yeah, I could see how the Canadian government would do that.
The big gap in this theory, though, is how do you go from just simply upsetting a bunch of conservatives to terrorists happening? Because, like, well, as we've seen with the trucker convoy,
if there's dissatisfaction, if there's dissatisfaction and people have proof to think that the election they thought was legit and above board, in the bag win for Pierre Poilievre is no longer, and Charest's the guy, and bingo, bango, bongo, get in line or get out of the party, you bigot. We're not here for freedom lover, right? Free DUMB lover. That's what they're trying to push. And you can go read through Charest's tweets and look at the amount of likes he's got in the last couple of days. You can see the narrative being built just like they did for Biden, right? From your basement, 10 people show up. Everybody hates Biden. Most votes in history.
I think that would be a good thing. I think that would be a good thing.
Accelerationist, it is.
Because, and I'll tell you why. Because
crazy, that's for sure.
The one of the biggest problems of this country is apathy and complacency. And I think they actually like Pierre because Pierre actually adds to a lot of complacency and a lot of apathy. Because guess what? During the trucker convoy, people for the very first time were going out on the overpasses. They were going to Ottawa. They were getting excited. Like, wow, we're sticking it to the man. You know, like we're actually.
But that's a bunch of people showing their fealty, showing that they support this thing, and it didn't result in much electoral change. It really didn't. I mean, sure, there are things that are more free in Canada than they have been in the last couple of years. That's fine, but we've still lost. But the point is, right after this huge movement happened that inspired the world, by the way, Pierre Poilievre showed up and said, hey, I'm running for Conservative Party and I'm going to say all the right things that you guys like. And then all the people who were getting all riled up for the trucker convoy, they're like, I'm going to follow this establishment politician from the Conservative Party who did not stand up for me for 2 years when it comes to the mandates that got cracked down. He didn't stand up for all the things, though. He's talking with Canadian healthcare workers fired for vaccine mandates. He's standing up for international healthcare workers to fix the problem. So, like, there's some real issues with the Conservative Party and with Pierre's platform. But what I'm saying is
exactly
all of that. Yeah, no, there is. I've made no bones about that. There's no horse for me in this race. I'm watching it as somebody who's desperate for a country that doesn't look like a bad bet for the next 30 years, because, you know, I want my kids to grow up in a place that has opportunities, not in some post-national hellhole.
Sure. But my point is when Pierre showed up to grab the attention and the support of all these trucker convoy people have now gotten back on the couch and they're complacent and they're a little bit more apathetic again, because they're like, Pierre's going to save us. Pierre's going to save us. And I don't think he is going to save us. I think he's going to. If I had one question, and I can promise you, if I get the chance to ask him a question, should I say the F word?
Boxers.
I would have one question for him. I'd be like, Pierre, are you going to fuck us? That would be my only question for him. Are you going to fuck us? Seriously.
See, I thought it was good in that area.
That's all I want to know. That's all I want to know.
Like, the WF. There's so many unknowns, man. I feel like we're going into Labor Day. We're not going to be able to get together next week. I've got another thing going on, but after Labor Day, we're going to see where we're at. See if you think that my theory of Joe Bidening the CPC is plausible, because we still got another month in this, right? Isn't it October 6th that this CPC race ends, or is it September 12th?
Yeah, I mean, I think your theory's totally whack. I think that we already have Joe Biden in office. We already have our Joe Biden. So what they have to do is they have to continue to do the controlled opposition thing And I think they would never snub Pierre because I think he's already in the pocket of the globalists. And I think that if they were to snub him, it's too uncontrollable. Like if they were to do that, it would create so much static in the country that a lot more people would be paying attention than before, and that would not be good for globalists, because globalists want people who are asleep and don't care, and like, oh, this politician's fighting for me, which is exactly what they get with Pierre Poilievre. So
yeah, well, and that's what they want. I understand that too. We'll see. We'll see, man. I don't know. Let's call it. We'll end it there, and we'll get together in a couple of weeks, and we'll see where we're at.
If Slime Jean Charest gets voted in, then I'll be eating my words. And we'll get
Emperor Palpatine.
I guess the next time we're going to talk is after the leadership race. Actually,
is that when does it end? Is it September 6th? When does
I think it's like 8 or 9 days from now? I think.
No, is it September?
I think so.
Yeah, Jeepers Creepers. So yeah, we'll know, and it'll be crazy. I'm gonna keep doing my show. We'll see, and we'll see how things will turn out. But I don't even know what I'm hoping for at this point. We'll see, man. I hope for sanity to return to Canada, however that happens, but not WEF sanity. Not anything like that. All right, where can they find you?
Find me on my YouTube channel, Greg Wycliffe, Instagram, Greg Wycliffe, TikTok at GDub. And then also on Twitter, GDub. I'm also on Telegram, t.me/Greg Wycliffe.
Snap. And you can find me at CanadaPoly.com and all the other stuff I do. And I'm going on a small trip. So tomorrow is dicey for being recorded, but I'm not sure. And I'll be back Thursday if I don't make it tomorrow. So see you soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Bye.
Catch you next time.